A Swift Kick in the Ass, episode 53. This is live. I got to do it again. I'm going to keep YouTube running. I didn't have record pressing. It wasn't recording on the mini recorder.
Okay. So I guess I won't hear that either, right?
Nope.
Okay.
A Swift Kick in the Ass, episode 53. Welcome. I'm Tom Stewart. I'm joined with my lifelong childhood friend, John Curren. And today's show title is Feeling Kind of Dirty, Feeling Kind of Mean. And it's
Feeling
if
down
this
and dirty, right?
feeling down and dirty, feeling kind of mean.
You
I've
know,
been I've
I
been
know
from
you're.
one hey, I've been from one to another extreme. You know what that is, right?
Yeah, it's from Foreigner, and it's the way you're feeling right now because you've been having problems with your Mac.
It's double vision. Just so
Oh,
you
okay.
know,
I'm sorry.
just so you know, and this we usually don't talk about our technical problems, but we also send this out to YouTube, and so I apologize to the people on YouTube. They won't hear some of the elements playing just because my Mac decided to burn out some input. So I made a workaround so it actually works. But anyways, what the show title is really talking about how clarity of your vision will drive you forward. And we mentioned Double Vision from Foreigner just from a rock song because we kind of liked that, and it kind of relates to a Swift Kick in the Ass, John. Like if you've been from one to another extreme, that's what happens when you have a Swift Kick in the Ass. You go from one point and you change almost sometimes opposite. If you're doing something that you don't want to do, you stop doing it. If you want to make a change in your life and head to a different direction, it's a Swift Kick in the Ass that will put you there and put you onto another direction.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's absolutely true. And if you're trying to make changes in your life and you're not getting anywhere, you're going to feel down and dirty. You're going to feel kind of mean. Uh, but that's because your expectations aren't meeting the reality of it. So of course you're gonna have a whole wide range of emotions about it.
Right. You know that song? A lot of people think that that song is about getting high or getting wasted, but it's not. It was really Foreigner watched a New York Rangers hockey game, and the goalie John Davidson had got whacked and by one of the Philadelphia Flyers, and it made him have double vision. And they kept on talking about double vision during the game, and they were like, that'd make a great name because they already had the song and the riff and everything, but they didn't know what to call it. So that's where the name came from.
And I heard also that I mean I heard about the hockey game, but also at that same time, wasn't there some other sports game playing at the same time? And this was before picture-in-picture TVs, so they had one TV sitting on top of the other. It's
Oh
kind of
wow, yeah.
so that too was double vision. So I think it made sense. Um, you know, a picture, it says 1,000 words, and any one of us can see a picture and have different interpretations of what that picture is. It means something different to all of us, but it's in our mind, and it enhances our understanding. And we can actually, in some cases, we can feel, we can smell, we can almost touch. That picture becomes so real. um, like imagine reading the words in a really good book. You're reading through your book and it almost transports you into another reality. uh, that's part of what we're talking about today, as far as imagining um, what you want out of your life. A lot of people, I think, start focusing on how to change their life, and they're focusing on the tactics involved, the steps that they take, but they're not really thinking of the big picture of the end goal. And that's really what this episode is all about. It's about creating a picture in your mind, creating an image that is so real you can taste it, you can touch it, you can smell it. Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he used to, be working out, shooting for Mr. Universe, or yeah, Mr. Universe, right?
Yeah.
Um, he
And then
used
eventually Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, he used to imagine his biceps were mountains, mountain peaks, and that would help him, focus his energy and his mind to be able to, push himself.
And
Image,
he really knew what he wanted to do too. He knew he wanted to be an actor. He knew he wanted to come to America and, be like his he had a childhood hero, which was Christopher Reeves, I think his name was. Was it Christopher Reeves?
that's
Um,
Superman.
no, not Superman. It's the other Reeves, the guy that played Hercules in all the old fashioned movies. He was a bodybuilder, and he wanted to be like this guy. And so that's what, in the back of his mind, he knew, hey, I need to get big. I need to get developed. I want to be the best bodybuilder I can in the world. But then I'm going to go beyond that. I'm going to become an actor. And, eventually I'm going to even take it further. I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I might even get into politics. And he knew all that back when he was still in Austria, so the guy he had vision without a doubt.
Yeah, and that's really the first step. The first step in imagery is first decide on the end goal. Start forming that picture in your mind, um, and then start getting, once you have that picture in mind, then start writing down each step that you're going to need to reach that step. You need to be realistic. You need to be specific. You need to describe what you want. You're basically telling yourself what you want out of life in very specific terms. Um,
Yeah, they have to be, you picture some milestones that would put you into wherever it is that you want to be. You want to provide specific details that are measurable, but you still want to have a vision. You might not know how you're going to get there, but the end result, you know what you want to be.
yeah, that's absolutely true. And so many of us, um, we tell ourselves that we can't do something before we've even tried. And this, imagery it can counter that kind of mindset. It can help you change your mindset where, in small steps you start moving yourself towards what you can do rather than what you can't. Because if you're focusing on what you can't do, you're really defeated before you even try. You're telling yourself that you're losing before you even get off the starting line.
So, John, I know for myself, when I think of a vision, I think of where I want to be in the future. Almost like when I'm retired, but I want it to happen sooner than being retired. I want that location independence. I want to be, I want to drive and buy an RV and travel around with my wife and be able to make money as I'm out and about and not be tied down to one specific location. And that's something that I'm working towards, and it's something I see in my mind. And she's on the same page, so it's like a shared vision that we're working towards. And I'm going to try to harness as a broadcast engineer, I'm going to try to take back all the skills that I've learned in audio and video and apply them to some other form of new media, whether it be a podcasting and blogging and, you know, tutorials and training and so forth, in order to make revenue on the side so I can be location independent. So in my mind, I already have that vision. Now there's certain tactics and steps and I'll take along the way, and some I might not even know about yet, but that's my vision and it's gives me a goal to shoot for.
Yeah, and some people just start heading down a road. In fact, I was one of those people that just really didn't have an end in mind, and I thought I'm kind of a free spirited person, and I thought, hell, I don't need any plans. What do I need a plan for? That's no fun. I want to be spontaneous. I want to, I just want to enjoy life, and life is an adventure. And was feeding, telling myself this. And it ended up really getting me into a lot of trouble because I just wandered around, without direction. And, if you're trying to plan, take a trip from Florida to California, you're going to look at a map. You're going to do a lot of research along the way. That's a really long drive. I haven't driven out to California, but I've driven from Atlanta out to Colorado and then all the way back down into Florida. And I did that with the help of, a map and thinking about where I was going to stay and putting a lot of thought and effort into that. If I was just to take off in my car and say, "Oh, I want to go to Colorado," I wouldn't know how the hell to get there. And I think a lot of people do that with their own lives. They have this, maybe they have an end goal in mind, not, but they don't have the full picture. Imagine yourself on a beach. A lot of these entrepreneurial type of shows, they show a guy on the beach and he's laying there. He's got his laptop, he's got his toes in the sand and a tropical drink. And that's a beautiful picture. But just thinking of that picture is not going to get you there unless you start taking steps. Think back a bit and kind of work back from that vision and start listing the specifics. What you need to do to get yourself into that picture. But you'd need a plane ticket to go where you're going. You're going to need money. You're going to need a laptop. You're going to need to do all sorts of things. If you have loose ends, wherever you're living, if you have an apartment or a house, what are you going to do with that? You need to answer those type of questions and really think critically about what you need to do to get yourself into that picture.
You know, having a vision is, if you have a vision, man, you're already halfway there, because the hardest thing, I think, John, is really trying to decide what the hell you want to do. I was talking to my wife Jennifer about this earlier today, where she's not clarified on right now on her path. Yeah, we want an RV and so forth, but she doesn't know what she wants to do right now. What is, how she can take her passion and apply it to something that she wants to do wholeheartedly. You want to be able to have a vision where it's something, they say that you wake up in the morning and when you go to work, it doesn't feel like work because you love what you do. Maybe it's if no one paid you, you'd still do that anyway. To be able to find that's very difficult, and to be able to focus and hone on it. Sometimes it takes getting some quiet time going. Like if you think back to the biblical days, right? Moses went to Mount Sinai. Jesus went out to the desert for 40 days, which 40, by the way, doesn't mean 40 days as in 40 and, 30 plus 10 equals 40. It means 40 back in those days meant a long time. So God knows how long he was really out there. And then you think back of, Muhammad. Muhammad went to the cave, right? And if you take it now to, pop culture, Superman, he had the Fortress of Solitude. So you need quiet time sometimes. You need to really reflect and sit around and think, what is it that I want in my life? What is it that gives me purpose?
Yeah, and also they say that you should, when you think of your vision, you should think of it from your perspective. You're not a member, of the audience sitting there watching a movie in this type of imagery. You should have a picture in your mind that you're seeing through your own eyes. Like going back to that beach picture, you're picturing yourself sitting in that lounge chair, and you're looking out at the beach and the water and the seagulls and the tropical drink. You could smell it, you can taste it. But going back to what you said, Tom, about your wife, I think a lot of people have difficulty kind of connecting the dots and trying to figure out exactly what they want to do. And let's just face it, it can be very overwhelming because this life, there's so many different options that people have, and it's hard to kind of really narrow it down. So, my advice is to focus on the here and now, and only focus on things that you can control. It's nice to have more money. Everyone wants to make more money. Everyone wants to be happy. But what can you do that is not dependent on anybody else? Like if I want to make more money, within my current role, then I need to seek probably another position. Um, and that's a dependency. That would require someone else to hire me for a higher paying job. But a lot of people, they don't think about it. That's kind of out of my hands. I can create opportunities for myself that may lead to that and may lead to that decision. But what a lot of people don't look at in that regard is that there's another side of the coin there. It's not just making more money, it's actually reducing expenses as well is something else you can do. Because let's just face it, if you make more money, most of the time people increase their expenses if they start making more money. So you're actually, even though you're making more money, you're in the same place as you were. It's not really moving you forward. Um, so if you have specific goals in mind, it might include getting a new job and making more money. But I recommend that you also look at the other side of that equation, and that's your expenses and keeping your expenses down low and being aware of what your expenses are so that you can recognize, so you can make plans with that extra money rather than just saying, oh, you know what, I'm making more money now. I'm gonna spend it, because you're gonna end up right where you're at. Um,
I think it's important too that they focus on what they want, not what others expect of you. You were talking about Arnold, and Arnold, his father was a police officer and expected that he would follow in the same path, and Arnold believed in himself when no one else would. So that's another quality. You have to believe in what you really want, and when all the chips are down, no, everyone's gonna feel like everyone is against you. Even your spouse or your friends or your family, they're going to mock you and say, no, no, that can't be done. You have to believe in yourself. Absolutely. And that's what Arnold did. Arnold was like, when no one, the guy was like, when he was forced to go serve his 2 years in the military, he was sneaking out and doing bodybuilding competitions, so he just knew that that's what he was and that's what he wanted.
and it's not really just other people as well. I think we can also be our own worst enemy. When you
Absolutely.
when you think about imagery, imagery is a very powerful. Pictures are very powerful, but it can affect you negatively as much as it can affect you positively. And let me just give you a few examples: panic attacks, you know, or a difficult conversation you need to have with someone where you need to be honest and you know that what you're going to tell them, they are not going to want to hear. We can create pictures in our minds of, going through that conversation and make ourselves just absolutely nuts. Um, it can create physiological reactions to that. You can start sweating, you can start having a panic attack, you can, your heart rate's going to increase. You could really freak yourself out through creating a picture in your mind.
Well, it's
It's
fear. We had an episode on fear, and they said an acronym for that's fantasy expectation appearing real. And it's fear is in your mind. It's not something that's happening to you right then. It's something that you imagine that can happen, and it might not never happen. And that's what happens with us. We create all these things, and well, what am I gonna? I'm gonna say the wrong thing, or I'm gonna do the wrong thing. I'm gonna look like an idiot. I'm gonna look like a fool, and people hate looking foolish. And I think that it terrifies you. It freezes you, and it halts any progress. So you just, once you get comfortable with something, you say, I'm not gonna try to step out of my box, because I'm comfortable here and I might screw up or I might do something wrong, or whatever it is. And that's fear.
Yeah, and you talked about reality and your expectations being realistic. Back when I was in I think it was in graduate school, a buddy of mine gave me this poster. It was pretty well known back in the time, and it showed this really nice Spanish villa, like a big house up on the coastline. It looked like California or something like that, and kind of had this winding path leading down to like this 5-car garage. And in the garage, it showed, the tail ends of these really expensive cars, like a Porsche and a Ferrari and a Corvette. And the caption read, um, it's what the hell did it say? Now I was thinking about
It
those
said
cars.
It says Ty Lopez lives here.
And nothing about Ty Lopez. Is probably before the dude was born. It said justification for higher education, and I was in graduate school, and I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna go through school and make all this money, and a couple of years had gone past, and I'm still thinking, I still had that picture in my mind, and I'm feeling kind of down because I didn't have the Porsche in my garage. I didn't have the Spanish villa on the coast, of California, overlooking the ocean, you know. But as I thought about that, I thought, you know what? I've got a nice house. I've got a great wife. I've got a child. I only had one child at the time. I had a boat. I had another boat. I had a big four-wheel drive truck. I had a couple of cars. I had toys. And I was thinking, you know what? I've got that picture. It's just not the same. It is the same, but it's not. I don't have the expensive cars, but I've got a lot of toys. I've got freedom. I've got so much. And even though the picture is not the same, it has a lot of similarities. I'm living a good life. So I changed my expectation at that point, because if you're trying to make change in your life and nothing's happening, you can do one of two things. You can change what you expect, change the picture, or you can change your actions. If I really wanted that, maybe I needed to change jobs and start making more money. One that would earn me a lot more keep. Maybe I should be, I should be evil and become like a drug dealer or something. I don't know.
And
I
have
mean,
an
I'm
evil
not
family.
saying that I would. I'm just saying, I'd have to change my approach that would earn me millions and millions and millions of dollars. But I was very happy with what I was making, and I had a lot of toys and a lot of material possessions. It didn't make me happy, but I
Because
hope
it
I'm
doesn't
getting my
have to
point
be,
across. Yeah.
having vision does not have to be about having more money or having a specific job. I mean, it could be that you want more time to do what you do. Maybe you're an artist and you want more time to paint or create, so you lay out a plan in order to attain that time. What do you have to do? Do you have to work a different job? Do you have to, cut back on your expenses, or maybe it's not even financial. Maybe you're financially set and you want to have purpose and you need to find something that means something to you. So it's not all about fame and success, and like some of the other motivational people out there will talk about. It always sounds like you're climbing up this corporate ladder. You don't have to do that. It's like John
Yeah.
says, change expectations, or what it really is that makes you happy. Think about what is it that I wake up for in the morning, and what is it that I want to have more of.
Yeah. What gets you excited, and recognize too that the picture that you paint in your mind, it can change. It can change with time. I know that, I wanted to climb up the corporate ladder. I had the dream of becoming a CEO of a hospital. Uh, I was going to be a hospital administrator, and I was on that track. Uh, but as soon as my first daughter was born, that all changed. It all went out the window, and I thought, you know what? I just want to be the best dad that I can be, and the career, focus just went away. I no longer have that desire. Um, it's a different picture, and you need to, look at your picture and see if it really fits. Like I used to have a Corvette back in my single days, and I loved that car. It was so much fun, but I ended up selling it, and it's one of those things that I actually regret doing, because I love that car so much. But as I, excuse me, as I think about it right now, that two-seater car, even though it was fun, it doesn't really fit into my world anymore. It would be a great date night car, but besides that, I mean, I can't take my three kids, I can't take my wife, I can't take my dog. It's not very practical. It's kind of not realistic for me at this time in my life. Maybe after the kids are grown up and things change again, that my picture can change and that can re-enter.
Right. Well, you pivot. I mean, you change. Obviously, when we grow, what we wanted when we were children usually changes, but not always. I mean, in the case of Arnold, right? He wanted to be a bodybuilder. Obviously, now he doesn't care about being a bodybuilder because he's, past his prime. So he probably pivoted. We know he went into politics and, now he's back into movies and probably directing and, you know,
yeah.
maybe looking forward to, spending more time with his son and, teaching him the ways of the world, which, was probably not on his radar when he was 20 years old.
Yeah. So, practice forming these pictures in your mind, and you're going to get better. This, not everyone is able to create a picture in their minds. I One of my wife's friends uh, in Georgia has a dance studio, and I remember back when she was working as a secretary, and it was just a dream. She had gone to school for dance. She had been involved in dance for many years, but here she was working as a secretary.
First, when there's nothing but a slow, glowing dream.
That's kind of
Flashdance?
creepy. That's kind of creepy, man. But she was searching out. She had been saving her money, and she was out and about and looking through the want ads. At that time it was before the internet, and she's looking through the newspaper, and she saw this dance studio space was for rent. And this lady had a dance studio. She was retiring, so she was shutting down the business, and she had an opportunity because she had her eyes open and she saw an opportunity, and she had a decision to make, and that was, do I give up this stable position as a secretary, or do I kind of take some risks and try to make a go at this and pursue my dream? Well, let me just say that before she even opened up the doors, she had about 300 students because she got that other lady's business. Um,
Nice. That's good.
and now she has two locations. She has had probably thousands of students. She's been doing it for 15 years, or maybe even more than 15 years now. It's great, and she loves every minute of it. Um, so you know, I've never was that blessed with a vision like that. I was like, I'm going to go where the wind takes me. I'm going to be spontaneous and fun, and that's
The
part of
Rolling Stone.
yeah. I believe no moss, right?
They say also sometimes you need to think backwards. What choices, actions, beliefs are needed to get you from here to there, and you think of where you want to be, and then you start thinking back of, if I'm there and I'm picturing, myself in an RV, what do I need to do in order to make steps to start making that happen? So that's just one other technique, that you can use in order to do
Yeah.
it. I saw a cool quote by Steve Jobs, John, and it said, "If you are working on something exciting that you really care about, you don't need to be pushed. The vision pulls you," which is pretty,
Yeah.
that's basically sums up his life. And
Yeah.
he left that legacy, and and that's another thing. You think about, do you want to leave a legacy? Do you want to leave something behind for your kids and your children? I mean, one of our episodes we just talked about death, and how that's, you never know. We don't know how much time we have, so we always think that, oh man, we have a lot of time in order to reach what it is that we want to do, but we never know. We don't. But that's not up to us.
Yeah, that's very true. But going back to what you said about, you know, painting a picture and kind of working backwards, and how those goals, that picture can help pull you, that way. Um, it's amazing when you have a very specific picture in your head, how to get there becomes evident when you stop to really think about it, and you start thinking how to get to that picture. It will all start to make sense, and that's probably what what your wife really needs, Tom, is to have a more of a specific picture in her mind, for the here and now to start working at. And back when I was in Toastmasters, I remember this speech, and I've been looking for the notes on it because it was absolutely just brilliant. But they had us do an exercise, and one thing was to write down, where you saw some where you saw yourself in a year, And then I think they did 3 years or 5 years. And by writing down, these things that you want, and then they said, you write down the note, then you tuck it away and you don't look at it. Make a list of the things that you want out of life, then just tuck it away. Forget about it. When you find that, months down the road or a year down the road, whenever it is, you're going to be amazed at how many of those items you've checked off the list. And it's because subconsciously, when you write it down, it takes it from a thought, which is intangible. It makes it real. It makes it tangible. Just the pure act of writing it on a piece of paper turns it into something you can hold, and your mind will drag you towards that picture without you really even giving it a second thought. It all works unconsciously. Try it for yourself and get back to me, and tell me. I'd love to hear your stories about what that exercise did for you, because it's really powerful. I've done that before, and it's just amazing.
Writing down, it has a connection, a physical connection. Even when you journal, to get the things out of your head. Sometimes you had so many things going on, and it helps us to sit down and have some quiet time and to start writing. Doesn't have to be perfect English, doesn't have to be, any certain, it could be random ideas or just thoughts to get it out of your head, so you can see it on a piece of paper, and it takes away the stress too, right? If you're having a
Yeah.
stressful day and you got a bunch of different options, just making a SWOT analyst chart that we've talked about, the pros and cons of something can really help.
Yeah, it helps frame it. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, honestly. After my dad died, I had all of these thoughts and all these, his experiences and these things that my dad taught me throughout my life in my head. They were bouncing around. And I know from my own experience that the more these thoughts bounce around my head, the more damage it becomes. My mind just becomes so cluttered. And after my dad died, I sat down at my computer and I started typing. I started writing out all these different stories. And maybe 6 months down the road is when Tommy called me for my birthday. And he said, "Hey, you know what? I think we need to do a podcast, and you need to get these things out of your head." And that's really what this podcast is for both Tom and myself. It's creative expression. It's a way to get these thoughts out of our heads and not only help ourselves, but also help others, because we know that if we're thinking about it, chances are other people are thinking about it too. And you can benefit. We all benefit from each other, all of our experience. We can all learn from each other.
When I think back when I first got into radio, I wanted to be on the radio. I didn't want to be an engineer or what I am. I didn't think I could do that. I was like, and I didn't do much math, or, it's not my strong suit. But, when I first got my job, I was actually I interned for a while, and I got my foot in the door. And I remember driving home. They had taught me how to do a remote broadcast, and actually they finally hired me, and I was making $6 an hour, and I was thinking, man, $6 an hour, but I'm in. I was happy. I was content because I had my foot in the door. I was working at this rock station that I had grown up listening to, and it was like, the guys I hear on there, and I know radio's not what it was, but back then when I first got into it in the early 90s, it was still, it was radio and TV. There was no internet. And so, I mean, it was, if you wanted to hear music and all the artists were coming in and out of the station, I mean, to me, as a young guy, that was really cool. You know, years later now, it's like, yeah, it's radio, it's a big deal. But it's still, I had a goal that I wanted to reach. And I just, I knew it was going to take me time, and I would have never foresaw the advent of podcasting, where I could talk and and have a creative outlet, and where I didn't have to be on air. So and I've been on air on radio, but it's much safer being an engineer. But this, with podcasting, I can do this for fun, and I can talk with my best friend here and talk about our childhood experiences and hope to help other people.
Yeah, I don't know if it's out there on the interweb, but I know I have some tapes of the renegade of the airwaves, which was Tom. I remember taping some of your shows.
Yeah, it was a heavy metal show. You know, I have a heavy metal and alternative really because it was back during the Seattle time when Pearl Jam and all those guys first came out, and they would play Pearl Jam on some of the rock stations, and but they would only play like bands like Nirvana late at night, like after 10 o'clock, and I was like, guys, this is awesome music. But I was playing stuff with Ice-T and Body Count, where they're Cop Killer and all the really hardcore stuff that you didn't hear anywhere else. And we had comedy, and I had a partner that I used to do it with, who also ended up in radio, and later on went to TV and won a bunch of Emmys for his audio production. It was a really cool time.
Yeah. So, I guess what we're saying is that, your picture might change, but you got to at least try, start practicing, start walking, taking steps towards what you want, and go for your dreams, because only you are going to, or only you are going to be able to do that. No one can, no one can do it for you. Um,
I wanted to play a clip from Alan Watts. Alan Watts was a famous Buddhist back like in the 60s and 70s. He's no longer with us, but he has it's on YouTube. But it was a clip of one of his speeches, and it was, "What if money was no object?" And basically, it's talking about finding your purpose and what it is you want to do. So let me play this real quick, John, and I know that we have some challenges for you and the YouTube people, but I'll send a little audio to you.
We're getting out of college and we have the faintest idea what we want to do. So I always ask the question, what would you like to do if money were no object? How would you really enjoy spending your life? Well, it's so amazing. As a result of our kind of educational system, crowds of students say, well, we'd like to be painters, we'd like to be poets, we'd like to be writers, but as everybody knows, you can't earn any money that way. Or another person says, well, I'd like to live an out-of-doors life and ride horses. I say, do you want to teach in a riding school? Let's go through with it. What do you want to do? When we finally got down to something which the individual says he really wants to do, I will say to him, you do that. And forget the money. Because if you say that getting the money is the most important, you will spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And after all, if you do really like what you're doing, it doesn't matter what it is, you can eventually you can eventually become a master of it. The only way to become a master of something is to be really with it. And then you'll be able to get a good fee for whatever it is. So don't worry too much. Somebody's interested in everything. And anything you could be interested in, you'll find others. But it's absolutely stupid to spend your time doing things you don't like in order to go on spending things you don't like and doing things you don't like, and to teach your children to follow in the same track. See, what we're doing is we're bringing up children and educating them to live the same sort of lives we're living, in order that they may justify themselves and find satisfaction in life by bringing up their children, to bring up their children to do the same thing. So it's all wretched, no vomit. It never gets there.
So that is a very powerful statement, talking about how we just follow in our parents' footsteps and continue on raising our kids the same way as we grew up. But you can break that chain. I know with my daughter Logan, when she wanted to go to college, I really encouraged her to follow what she was passionate about. She's a very good artist, but she's very smart. So she got a full scholarship to school. She could have went in for engineering or science or math or whatever she wanted to major in, that people would have said was a safe, you know, position or career to go in. But I want her to pursue her art, so she's going for art, and I encourage that. And I think it's beautiful that when someone finds what it is that they want to do, eventually, like you said, you'll become a master of whatever it is that you want to do if you do it long enough, and eventually people will pay you for it.
Yeah, I found that what I loved is the way it ended. All retch and no vomit. And that sounds like some concerts I've gone to. But I think so many people try to chase happiness, and they think if I just make that money, if I just get that car, if I just can get this or do that, I'll be happy. And they're chasing happiness. We all need to focus in on the here and the now, because that's all that we have. A past is in the past, it's gone, it's in our memories. Future, it may come, it may not. So we need to have hope and expect to have a future, but recognize that could be taken away from us at any moment. So be happy with the here and now. Uh, that I think that's it's difficult to do, but it's so easy to get caught up in life and get frustrated and stressed out. But if you think about your own happiness and what you can give and what you can do to be more happy, and let everyone else worry about themselves. Even those people that you love and care about, you can't control them. You can only control yourself and what you do and the actions that you take and what you think. And you can even change how you feel about things. But you can't do that for other people. So don't expect other people to change just because they're doing something that you don't like. Think about that. Think about what you can do to make that relationship better if you're having problems with someone else.
And
Not
in the
what
end, if you really don't have a vision and you don't have anything that you really aspire to, give your time to other people, and they say that in giving is when we receive. So that's not gonna, you can do that until you find out what it truly is that you really do want. Maybe you find out that helping other people is what you're meant to be on this earth for.
Yeah. I always struggled too with that vision. As I've said now several times in this episode, and I always have had a very open mind, and sky is the limit. But I have to say that one thing like really feel strongly about and passionate about are my children. And I think that maybe I was put on this earth to be just the best father ever. And I get a lot of enjoyment out of teaching them and being with my kids. And that's really what I want my life to be about. But there's been,
That's I relate, and it's probably because we're friends, and we've had similar upraising. But I've often thought the same thing. I mean, my job really is to take care of my children and introduce them to this world and help them grow and learn. And I think I've done the best I could for that job, and I hope I've been a good father. And I think I have. My children are to me 10 times better than I ever was. I mean, I just I can't even imagine life without having my kids.
yeah. So I think we're going to start wrapping this up. But couple pointers I just want to make sure that we're clear on. Okay, stop telling yourself that you will be happy or you will do something. Focus on what you have and what you have right now and what you are right now. You know, stop defeating yourself through your language and focusing on the future. Focus on the here and now, and be aware of any barriers to whatever goals that you're trying to reach. Things that will threaten your success. And again, you can also use imagery to help cast away some of those barriers. You can like imagine if you have a lot of bills, you can imagine yourself and the feeling that you're going to get when you write that check to pay it off. um, just getting that in your mind, getting that picture in your mind of that something very specific that you're going to do, that that's going to help you breathe easier, going to help you sleep better at night. um, that can be also very helpful to help you move forward.
And I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. That's what Stuart Smiley used to say on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, and again, focus on what you can measure and what you can observe, and make it real. Um, you're you're not going to be able to do some things overnight. It's going to take dedicated effort and perseverance. But if you make your goals small and manageable and achievable, you're going to see that you can build those goals over time that lead you to that end picture that you're trying to get to.
All right, well, this is Tom, and I thank you for listening. And make sure you check out a swiftkickinatheass.com. Sign up for our free membership site. You just put an email in. We don't spam. We probably won't even email you once in a blue moon. But you'll get some cool courses. You'll get John's simple spending plan, the SWOT analysis, some other tools, and we'll always be dropping stuff in there here and there. So check it out.
Yep. Until next time, thanks for listening, and peace.